final screencast, we're going to format the text of your feature so that it is in columns and it's indented, and it may have a drop cap if it needs one. It depends on the style of your publications, and we're going to add a couple of picture captions. I'm not going to continue to fill this box in here. It's just to give you an idea of layout of something that you can do. It all depends on the content of your feature. You don't have to have a box with all of these little pictures in it. You could have more text and less pictures. It all depends on what you're doing. It's just to give you an idea of what a sidebar box is about and what it looks like. So I'm going to put my main text in. So to do that, I'm going to put my text underneath here, and it's going to run onto the second page. So I need to draw my text boxes. And here is, I'll go back to my T tool. I draw my text box like so. Now, my text I want to run onto from the first page here, the left hand page, onto the right hand page. And to do that, I need to link the text boxes on both pages so that the copy flows straight through one into the other. So to do that, I go on my top tool and I click on my text box. I'm just going to move that down slightly, it's quite high up. And I click on my text box, and if I zoom in using my magnifying glass, you can see there are little pull points all around the edges of the text box, and that allows me to make the text box bigger or smaller or change its shape. It also allows me to access a link to another text box, and that is through this square here, which is slightly bigger. It's always on the bottom right hand corner, and it's slightly bigger. It's just above the corner one. So if I click on that, you can see the cursor changes to a text, and I move over, and as I just draw another text box on the second page. And that means, let's pull that down slightly because we need to make room for a caption underneath Mary. And that means now that those two text boxes, if I'm just going to Control 0 to zoom out to the full page quickly, that means that the text that runs into from the first box, it will run straight through into the second box. It's all linked. So now I need to put some text in. At this point, you will copy and paste your feature in. I haven't got one of them, so I'm just going to put placeholder text in. So I double click in the text box and copy and paste my text in. Okay, you can see it's run over both pages as we link the boxes. Now I need to put the text into columns because it never appears like that. So I need to put the text into columns. So I'm going to click on the text box, not in it, not double click in it, but just one click on it. And up here you will see a little icon. If you hover over it, it should say number of columns, and next to it numbers that you can move up and down. It'll be on 1 because you can see the text box is all in one column here. I'm going to change it to 2 and 3 on this side of the page. And if I zoom in on this text box, so if I zoom in on this text box, you can see that it's got 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, and in the middle of each one is what's called a gutter. And we can make this gutter bigger or smaller. And that is the box underneath the column box. So if I press that arrow up, you can see how much bigger the gutter is getting. And in fact, if I press W and turn my guides off, this is even more obvious. Some magazines have really big gutters like that. Some fashion and trendy magazines can have really big gutters. Most magazines which are about information, like recipes, food, sport, which are more informative maybe than a fashion magazine, which is very visual, they tend to have slightly narrower gutters. So I'm going to take my gutters down to 5 because I think that's enough. But it all depends on the size of the size of the gutters and the publication you are copying. So there's my columns on that page, 3 columns with a decent sized gutter. On my second page with my text box on that page, I need to do the same thing. 3 columns and a 5mm gutter. Okay, and you need to fill out any white spaces at the end of your copy. Make sure all the text boxes are full to the end. I'll fill that out. There we go. Now, in addition to putting my text into columns, that's the way it looks now, I need to format it so that it's all indented. Copy never appears all in a straight line like that because it's difficult to read in features if everything is just in a straight line. There is no paragraph indents to tell the reader where the paragraphs are and to make it easier for the eye to navigate through the copy. Unless your target publication has spaces like between the paragraphs, don't put them in. Just use an indent. Copy whatever your magazine has. So to put an indent on, you need to go to the second par in the story, which is here, mine, not the first one, because the intro shouldn't be indented. So I'm going to highlight the rest of the story. And I'm going to go to paragraph, which is on my right hand side here. If it's not on your right hand side, you will find it in type menu at the top, paragraph. There it is. And if you look here, you can see the second box down, it's showing you that it puts an indent on the first line. So I'm going to put 3 millimeters in there and close that box up. And now you can see when we come off the copy and we press W, you can see that it's all indented along the paragraphs. And if there aren't too many indents, it means you don't have a lot of paragraphs and you need to put more paragraphs in because they really help with reading. So I'm just putting a few more paragraphs in here. Just in the usual way you put paragraphs in. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way through, like so. Okay, so now I have my copy is formatted with indents, but is it the right size? And is the leading correct? We touched on leading on the front page very briefly. Leading is the space in between, the white space in between the lines of text. If the leading is too high, the text is too gappy, and if the leading is too low, the text is too tight. So I'm going to double click in my text box. I'm going to highlight all my text, and I'm going to go up here and check. The text is 12 point. You might want it at 12. You might want it at 11. It depends on what your publication is like. I think 12 is nice and easy to read. Don't make text smaller just to fit your copy in. Do it. Design your page so that you have enough room for your copy at a decent size on the page so it can be readable. So the leading box is underneath, and I'm going to take the leading down to 13. Your leading should be around a point or 2 points or half. In copy this size, it should be around a point bigger than your font size. Your font size is 12 and your leading is 13, which means my copy is jumped up slightly and I need to fill this box out to the end. So I'm just going to go back and put my placeholder text. You will have to make sure your feature fills this space properly. So now I've got my feature indented, the copy's in the box, and the last thing I might want to do with this copy is put a drop cap on it. Some magazines have a big front letter. The first letter of the intro is really big, and that's called a drop cap. If you want to do one of them because it's the style, you click in the text box, you highlight the first letter, you go back to paragraph. Is it paragraph? Yes, it is. Paragraph. Sorry, you go back to paragraph, and on this last box here, you can see it's got a big A, drop cap number of lines. If you take it up to 3, 4, 5, you can see the A getting bigger the whole time. 3 is normally good. There's your drop cap. It goes over 3 lines. If you want, you can change the color of it. Go to your swatches, make sure the T for text is on the top, and change it to that red color we used from the palette we picked up. You can change the font of the A. You can make it a really curly kind of font, if I can find one. Doesn't look very nice, that. But you can, it depends on the style of your publication. Don't do this kind of stuff randomly. Do whatever your publication does. Your publication might have a completely different, like something like that. Might have a different font. It might not. It might just have the same font. It mightn't have a drop cap at all. So you need to check all of that before you do it. So that's my feature on my page. All I need to do are put some captions underneath my pictures. That's pretty easy. You just go to your T tool, draw a text box underneath your picture and fill it in. Mary Berry with her best boozy bakes. Highlight the copy, change it to a different font if you wish. If they do, they may not. Arial black, have I got Arial black? I do. Okay, so it stays out. It stands out rather, and then if you double click in the box, you can keep writing. You should try and fill the caption out as much as you can. Okay, do it spelling vodka correctly. Vodka tarts. Okay, so that's it. You need to put a caption under this pic. I'll need to put a caption under this, fill in my headline, fill in my stand first, fill in these pictures and put whatever text I'm going to put up here. I can just draw my text box so you can see it up here and fill it. Like that. I'm going to draw one text box like that. I'm going to zoom in. Like that. Go to my top tool, click on the box. I need to link it the same way we did using that square. Then I can fill this bit out. Click in there. I'm just going to put placeholder text. You'll have real text. You might want that text a bit smaller up there because it's a smaller box. You might have it at 10 point. You just make sure you fill it all out with whatever you've got to say. And you might have bullet points on this kind of text if you wanted it. There's lots of different things you can do, but yours, it should look something like that. You can make that text box there 2 columns, and then if I go on W, that's the way the text looks up there, and there's 5 little pictures around it, which, as I say, you might identify in this copy, or you might put captions under them. That's up to you. And that's a very basic layout for a feature. And as I say, yours will all depend on what you've got to do. And that should be it for now. We will in class cover any other extra things. There are plenty of extra things that you can do, which we will look at in class, but these screencasts do take you through the basics of what you need to know for your assessment.